Hello everyone, Darkeyser here, welcoming you back to the next episode of my Space Engineers survival playthrough. I want to thank my viewers and my subscribers, and particularly people posting suggestions on how I might improve the channel and improve the series, particularly those that are giving me suggestions on quality of life changes that I can make that will make my life easier. Today we're going to be trying the Easy Inventory mod suggested to me by one of my viewers. The mod is very simple, and I will be adding a link to it in the comments section. After the mod has been installed, it pretty much runs invisibly. The way that it works is, and let me demonstrate. As you can see, I have nothing in my own personal inventory here. Whatever block you want to build, let's say I want to build a camera, you have that block highlighted on your hotbar. You go to a cargo container or any other port that has access to the necessary components to build that block, and then you right click. You can see in the upper left hand corner the Easy Inventory indicator said that I successfully withdrew the components to build that block. And as you can see, I now have 2 steel plates and 3 computers, which is what is necessary to build a camera on a large block, since I am highlighting a large block. If the required components for building a small block are different, and they typically are between large and small block, then you will get the required components to build a small block camera if you go to a small block port. So I think it's going to be a great addition to the channel, and I very much appreciate my viewers and some of my subscribers and commenters mentioning it to me. They have also mentioned the automated sorting system, automated inventory sorting, and I believe I already have that on the list, but it requires the setting up of 1 or more cargo containers with a particular naming convention, and at the moment I only have 1 cargo container, so everything pretty much winds up there for right now, and I may wind up trying that out in the future when things start to get a little bit hairier, but I do appreciate them recommending it to me. Off camera, as promised, I made a few changes to my flying mining rig. I added another set of atmospheric thrusters going left and right to keep it from yawing quite so bad, and I managed to pipe everything in so that now all of my various connectors are, rather cargo containers are connected, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself that I may have left the back cargo container out of that because I have a thruster in the way. And I don't think I can pipe in through that rear drill. So I think I now have 2 of the 3 cargo containers piped in. What I would need to do, and I could do this, and I might do this off camera, what I would need to do is grind off this. I will probably have to take these thrusters and move them up and then go ahead and pipe it over. And that's a relatively small task, and that's something we're going to be dealing with off camera. But I'm very happy with the miner as it sits right now. I did move everything out a little bit, so now it's a little bit safer and easier to park everything. However, I think since I'm sitting here playing around with cameras, I think I'm going to take this camera. It's very helpful when it comes to parking the thing. However, what I'm more concerned with is being able to look down. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera, and I'm going to put it a little bit further forward so that it's looking at less of the dust and debris that I'm making while I am mining. So we'll see how that goes. I also took another mining trip to get iron, and as you can see, I have done quite a bit of work on the rover. This is going to be the primary drill area and I have a conveyor block set up here. I have a conveyor block set up here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a light armor block. Oh, that's not right. Did that wrong. Oops. And this is why we do these things. Okay, that's not right. This is what you get for either hurrying or, and see, now I can't do, now I gotta go do my thing. Okay, so now we're gonna do that, and I'm going to be putting down a conveyor junction, and so we right click and now we have the components necessary to build a conveyor junction. So the start of this has to be a conveyor junction, which I might as well weld up while I'm sitting here. And then I'm going to be putting an advanced rotor here, as you saw earlier, which I had misplaced. The advanced rotor will have another conveyor block attached to the rotor head, and then I will have a series of conveyor tubes going up this way. It will end at another conveyor block, and then I will be running a series of 10 pistons off of that, and that will be running all the way back this way. The entire affair will actually hang off the back end. The drill head itself will hang off the back end of the rover, because it's going to be wider than what will easily be manageable from here. And I plan on using the large grid landing gear as guides to help steer everything. Now, as you can see, I'm using the 5x5 wheels because this is going to be an enormous vehicle, and I wanted tires that are going to be strong enough to hold up many, many, many tons of stuff. I have also begun the process, and you can see the final effect here. I've started the process of arcing the armor blocks up and over the first set of wheels, and these are going to be ending in another set of wheels, and so therefore this thing will have 16 different wheel sets on it, and it will be able to carry a tremendous amount of weight, which is good because when I start the drilling process, I'm going to be bringing in such a huge quantity of stone and ore that I'm going to want to be able to carry all of that weight. I wanted to show you what the process was and what my plan was, crazy as it may be, although I am probably going to be doing a lot of this off screen just because schlepping back and forth and welding things and carrying steel plate back and forth is incredibly tedious. I may go ahead and build a welding ship and grinding ship just to facilitate Armed Transport Warrior Cargo Magnesium. I went ahead and took a look at the Armed Transport Warrior that passed through while I was working on all of this last night, and I flew up. I took off all of my gear so that if I died I wouldn't lose anything. I took the assault rifle and I took a couple of hydrogen bottles, and I went ahead and I flew up towards it, and when I was at 800 meters it began shooting missiles at me. I'm sure that there were either interior cannon or Gatling turrets that were on it as well. I just didn't get an opportunity to get that close. Once I saw the plumes from the missiles, I decided it was time to head home. So when it says Armed Transport Warrior, they're not screwing around. Although, since I haven't found any magnesium yet, I would very much like to have that cargo. And speaking of cargo, there's an unknown signal. I did fetch a couple of unknown signals over the course of the evening. I also, while I was ranging around, managed to locate a silicon deposit, and I went and got a little bit more ice. I still have not found, I believe I also found a gold deposit. Yep, there's a gold deposit there, and I think I found another iron deposit located on the backside of the hill, but I have not yet found any silver, have not yet found any magnesium. So I'm a little bit concerned because I have a fair number of less than friendly things roving around on the planet now and I have an assault rifle to defend myself with. So I'm probably going to be spending a little bit of time this evening off camera working on finding myself some magnesium and possibly building myself some defenses. I also went ahead and added 2 more wind turbines just because I had, after I returned from my latest mining trip, I had a total recharge time on all of my batteries of close to 8 hours, and that was simply unacceptable. And I will probably keep adding windmills as I see fit. One of the reasons why I went ahead and laid this out is because I want to try to weld up some of this today, but I also want to try to start expanding my production facility and build myself a full-size miner, a full-size assembler, so on and so forth, which will greatly speed up the refining process and all of my manufacturing. But I didn't see any point in building all of this over there and then working on this thing, and then once I get done, I just have to grind it all down and transfer it over. So I'm actually kind of paying it forward, trying to get as much of the vehicle done as possible before I get ready to start building things. And I think I feel secure enough that I'm going to go ahead and just lay out the grid work and the scaffolding for doing some of this production, and then I'll weld it up and do a lot of the other tedious work off screen. So for now, I'm not going to be needing any computers. Let me go ahead and refill my hydrogen that I've been wasting while I've been flying around yakking. I was running off another 1,000 steel plate. I also took the liberty of making myself an enhanced set of tools. I managed to find an enhanced hand drill inside one of the satellites, one of the unidentified signals, and then I discovered that the enhanced welder and the enhanced grinder don't require platinum. I believe the next tier do. Actually, since I'm standing here, why don't I look at that? Yeah, those are not available to me yet, probably because I'm still using the basic assembler. I'd be willing to bet the advanced assembler can make more advanced stuff. But I was under the impression that the top tier items required platinum, at least they used to back in the day. I am probably handicapping myself a little bit by relying on knowledge from past experience of the game, which may no longer be relevant. So I'm going to have to try to remember to check things out and not simply work on past knowledge, which may no longer be valid after the latest update. So I'm going to lay all of these out, and this is primarily to give me a little more height, to get the, I do that all the time, to get this layer of decking and the, I don't know whether that's the auto rotation on or just me being clumsy. Actually, why don't I do this way? Much less likely to run out of hydrogen, despite the fact that I've got a 10,000 kilogram lump of ice sitting in the hydrogen generator. I tend to be frugal with things sometimes, and again, I am so used to working on closed maps. When Space Engineers first took off, planets were not a thing. You were only able to do things in space, and you were working on a finite map. Your map had, I believe it was 50,000 kilometers to a side, and anything that wasn't on that map, you didn't have it. Some of the most popular mods early on involved being able to spawn in other planets, or spawn in other asteroids rather, so that you would have a renewable resource with regards to your mining ores and so on and so forth. Because if you had a busy enough server and you had 10 or 15 or 20 people and all of them were fairly voracious in their building, you could completely empty out a map. It would take a while, but my friend Dragle and I have built mining and salvage craft that they were enormous. And that started primarily when the old freighters, the original, I believe there were about 6 or 8 of them, the old freighters were first introduced to the game, and weapons had not yet been introduced, or if they had been introduced, they weren't working terribly well. And it was possible to approach an enemy freighter, even though it was armed, and not have it shoot at you. So it was kind of like cheating. But I managed to catch a large military transport. I actually managed to catch 2 of them. And I am reminded of the quote from Jaws, the taxidermy man gonna have a heart attack when he sees what I brung him, because while Dragle was in the process of attempting to build his mining ship, and I wanted to build a ship that was used mostly for salvage and grinding down other ships, because we were doing very well at capturing them. We had gotten quite a routine down, but they were deucedly slow to grind up. And the military hauler, even with a small salvage vessel with a couple of grinders on the front, because the entire thing was made of heavy armor, it literally took me weeks playing 3 hours a day. It literally took me 2 weeks to grind this thing up completely. It was ridiculous. And so I started building a salvage vessel that would do the same work, only much faster. And at that time, since the military hauler was the biggest freighter that you could catch, I naturally built my salvage vessel to handle it. And so after several months of work off screen, or rather in my off time, I managed to build something that would take the largest freighter that you had accessible in the game, and I would take it basically from one end to the other, and I would completely devour it in one pass. And I have a couple of tutorial videos dealing with how to make a grind ship or how to make a salvage type vessel similar to this, and I will provide links for those videos as well. Those videos were made a couple of years ago. However, as far as I have managed to determine, that portion of the game has not been changed in any significant way by the recent update. So all of the information there should still be valid. And we're just sort of poking along. I have discovered, through much trial and error, that... Okay, come on, seriously? I have discovered that when you are attempting to lay out a large string or a long string of blocks, it helps if you are flying alongside a surface. Now, I cannot go any higher because I'm up against that set of blocks. So my controls for my suit are a little bit easier because I have one axis that I don't have to worry about accidentally trailing off or accidentally losing track of where I'm at. And here is the same way. I'm basically all the way over to the right, up against this grid. And so as I thrust backwards, I may drift up, I may drift down, but I'm not going to be drifting to the right. And so it makes things a little bit more controllable when you're laying out these long series of blocks. And this is how I got started in the game, is building great big things. To me, that's sort of what Space Engineers is all about, is being able to build pretty much anything that your imagination can come up with within the limits of the game. And if you have a big enough computer, I think some of the recent video that has been shot of the official Space Engineers servers or the developer servers or what have you, where they have space elevators and other fairly large communities of multiplayer going on, I think that those are perfect examples of what you can do even when you get multiple people on a server. I know that the game in the past has had some serious issues with regards to multiplayer, and I must confess that I am not doing a lot of multiplayer right now, and the little bit that I am doing is on relatively small servers with relatively few people. But so far, as I have managed to determine, it's all greatly improved, and everything has been much better optimized, and so I'm very happy with the way things are working. Now, while I'm sitting here, where is my advanced rotor? And I want to make sure that I have this at the 0 position. Alright. You ever have one of those days where you couldn't hit the ground with your hat? There we go. Until I get that to the point where I can actually control it, and that means I need to get some power on this thing, I'm not going to mess with that, but I did want to make sure that that was where that belonged. And we will go from there. This is one of the 2 decks where I hope to have a large amount of my refining process, and then of course the other deck will be on the opposite side, and the drill will be running up the middle. I like the fact that I can simply walk from one side to the other, and I'm going to have to experiment with a couple of weapon mods, because while this is not supposed to be a combat craft, that is not its primary function, the front half, well, let's just say that if I have a few extra modded guns on it, that might not necessarily be a bad idea. I am planning on using it for attacking ground bases and so forth. So now, let's go ahead. We're going to go back. I'm going to recharge my suit. Check my inventory while I'm here. Everything appears to be moving along very well. Oh, I'm almost out of hydrogen. I came back at just the right time. 12K of ice, so we've got plenty there. Small cargo container. And we've still got 12K of iron from our last trip. So we're okay there. Until I run into the grid and can't do anything. There we go. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lay everything out. I'm hitting the wrong button. I'm going to go ahead and start laying everything out with regards to basic production shape. I'm not going to actually start welding anything yet, because as I demonstrated earlier with the advanced rotor being placed on an armor block, which would be making it completely useless, I like being able to frame all of this stuff out first. Now the drill is going to be swinging up, which means everything there is going to have to be coming over. I don't really think that's going to be that big of a deal, but I want to be able to walk from one side to the other without having to worry about ducking. Well, pooh, I may wind up putting everything over on this side, which means I just got done spending all that time flying along placing blocks. Well, let me see here. Uh-oh, unknown signal. What do we got? 14 minutes. Well, I don't need any more pieces of cow uniform, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue with what I'm doing. I haven't put down enough of these yet. Okay, now... Come on, get up there. Doggone it. Never fails. And yet again, let's just go ahead so that I'm doing less drifting around. I just know I'm going to walk off the back of the rover this way, because I've already done it. That's better. I have also decided, since I had mentioned the build and repair system, I have decided that I'm going to use it primarily to repair this, because if I take this thing into battle, or if I get attacked by some sort of maniac drone or something like that, being able to repair it, considering how complicated the systems are and how much damage one drone can do to a vehicle like this, I've decided after I get it done, I'm going to make a blueprint of it, and I'm going to use build and repair to repair it should it get damaged in some way. And I may use it for welding up armor blocks, simply because watching me weld armor blocks on screen is incredibly boring. And I don't want to do all of this off screen, because then you can't understand, or might not understand exactly what I'm doing, or the cause and effect of all of these decisions that I'm making with regards to why I'm putting things in different places. So first we put down the cargo container, because that's the biggest, chunkiest thing. So we put that there. Now we're talking about conveyor tubes and so on and so forth. Okay, so everything goes into the large cargo container first. All of the ore, all of the stone, everything goes in there. Now, after that, we're going to have... I think I have... Nope, I do not have this set up yet. We go to our production blocks. We're going to need a refinery. We're going to need... Actually, we're not going to need the basic refinery. We're going to need the hydrogen generator. We're going to need an assembler. I'm going to try to put on an actual medical bay, but I don't think I've unlocked those yet. So I'm going to have to stick with the survival kit. Nope, I do have a medical room. Okay. So we'll put that on there for later purposes. So now the first thing I need to have on here, I'm going to put on, and some of these items are just so big that it's just easier to place them when you're flying. It's going to be that kind of a day. My goal here and I like having the conveyor sorter set up. You can see right at the back of the sorter where it's adjacent to the large cargo container. I like to have those control panels set up so that they're readily available. Now the plan for the conveyor sorter is I'm going to set it up to drain all, and I'm going to set it for everything except ice and stone, basically all of the ores. And then all of that will be drawn into the refinery. And I like the fact that I'm going to be able to walk underneath this thing. We're also going to put on another conveyor sorter. And this one is going to be set up to convey stone, and only stone. And on the hotbar on the control where I'm running all of this from, that one will be turned off. And my plan is to only have that turned on once all of the rest of the ores have run. All of the stone will be held in the first large cargo container, and then once all of the other refining jobs have been run, then I'll go ahead and turn that on, and it will drain all of the stone out, and then the stone will go into the refinery. So the refinery will only be refining stone when it doesn't have anything else to refine. But I'm going to be doing that on a manual setting. So now we come back around to here. I sometimes don't like doing this at night because it gets difficult to see which direction some of these blocks are facing. And that's how mistakes get made. One of the reasons why I don't like using build and repair more frequently is because I really do like laying things out and then seeing how it goes. And sometimes you can have something laid out and it'll be 3/4 done, at least with as far as the layout is concerned. You can have the layout 3/4 done and you suddenly realize that you've made a mistake or you've forgotten something. And if your build and repair system is turned on, then that means that 2/3 of your work has already been welded up. And now you have to go ahead and highlight with the whatever color that you're telling your build and repair system to grind. And then it's got to go ahead and grind it all back off, and then you've got to start over. I would much rather build everything with the build and repair turned off, and once I'm sure that everything is laid out the way I want it, then I'll just go ahead and turn on the BAR, and it will go ahead and take care of all of the boring stuff while I'm running around planning the next thing. Okay, so now we have some more space. Now, our assembler, fortunately, has ports that are at the same level as the refinery, so I don't have to worry about running an extra port for that. I am going to drop a small cargo container, and I really should just have both of these because I don't think I'm going to need a connector right here, right now. I'm going to have a small cargo container, and I think this is where I'm going to be using the automated inventory sorting system, because I'm going to try to get all of the components that I have made from the assembler to come to this cargo container, so that while I'm building things, I have one stop shopping and I can just come here and pick up everything. This is also a good spot for me to put the build and repair system just on top of it, and then that will more readily cover the entire vehicle. Now, in addition to all of that, we're also going to need, where is our, there it is. We're also going to need a large hydrogen tank and an oxygen tank. And as before, since the hydrogen tank is the biggest component of this part of the operation, this is the thing I need to put down first. And I think That's where I want that to go. And I actually moved a little. No, actually that can work. Okay, so we have our hydrogen container. We put down our O2 generator, and we turn it so that the ports all line up. Now that has a port on the bottom, so I can do that. I think I will just put in a manual oxygen tank. And we'll just go ahead and do that way. And then we have this part. Nope, as I said, there are times when it's just easier to do this when you're flying through the air because it gives you a better perspective. Wonder how many times I'm going to do that before I'm done. Now the goal here, because ice is not something that the refinery ever deals with, the refinery will not draw ice. It can convey it, but it will not draw it. The same thing goes for the assembler. So I can use the conveyor ports to convey ice through them if I don't have some sort of conveyor sorter setup that's obstructing everything. But according to theory, what should happen if I happen to be mining ice, or if I happen to just drop ice into this cargo container for some reason, then the ice should be able to come down this way. And I plumbed it up incorrectly because the ice will not go into the hydrogen tank. The ice has got to go into the generator, which means, and we've already got our one port there doing that thing. So what we do is we do that, and then we do that. Cut that out.
Fuel low.
Uh-oh.
Fuel
Oh!
critical.
Okay. I really do think that the fuel low warning should come a little bit sooner. Really. I really do think that that would be a good idea. Owie. You son of a bitch. That's gonna leave a mark. Now, where were we before we were so rudely interrupted? There we go. Much better. So now, as I was saying, any ice that goes into the large cargo container will come down here. It will go into the hydrogen-oxygen generator. The oxygen will go into the oxygen tank, and the hydrogen will go into the hydrogen tank. And there is a gap in here, again, for me to walk through. Gonna have to see about a catwalk going around, but then again, I can always come around this way. So that's going to be fine. And that's my that's my basic refining system. I also want to see about, I'm thinking about a hydrogen engine. And that's primarily, I have not actually used one of those yet. Let me go ahead and put it on the hotbar. I don't use them to actually power vehicles typically. And to be perfectly honest, I have not used one of these yet, so they may be perfectly fine for that purpose. But I've heard some things about how quickly they will chew through ice. And so I'm thinking that they might be better served, instead of using them to power a vehicle, it might be a better idea to use them to simply recharge batteries. I think that looks right. I do have to say that the Stage 1 model of the thing is pretty nice. I haven't had a chance to take a look at one of those yet. It looks pretty cool. So now I've got this all plumbed out. So now I have to get some power to this thing, which means I need to get a battery on it somewhere. I need to get the rest of the system plumbed up, at least the hydrogen portion of it. And fortunately, putting the battery down first should give me sufficient energy to jumpstart everything else. And because I get fairly good sunlight, I'm fairly directly lined up with the sun. What I may wind up doing is putting on a solar array that I can deploy when I'm doing station keeping, or when I'm stationary, I should say. And all I'm doing is mining. So this has mostly been an episode explaining how I'm going to lay everything out and how I hope everything will work. By the way, I also wanted to mention, because I have had a couple of people ask, well, what happens after you finish building your great big roving thing, and then you build the front half, and then you start rampaging around doing things? Well, what comes next? My eventual goal, after I get the rover built and I've managed to travel around and gather up quite a substantial amount of resources, and probably expanded the rover, because, you know, that's how Space Engineers works. It's like, I built a small one and now I'm going to build a bigger one. My plan after that is to build a transport that is large enough to move the entire crawler, front and back, and I plan on going to either the local moon for this planet, or possibly the alien planet. And then we'll see what's going on over there, with the added stress of trying to figure out where I'm going to get oxygen from if I can't find ice. But all of that is for another day. I think we've done enough for today. I have lots of welding and producing of materials to do. Cargo explosives. Nope, not going to mess with that. So, enough for today. I hope that everyone enjoyed themselves. I very much appreciate the positive comments and the suggestions on how to improve the channel. As I said, how to improve the series. Comments I do look forward to. Constructive criticism is perfectly acceptable. I know that I'm hardly perfect at this, and so any ways that you guys can think about, those of you that have done similar things, or those of you with more experience than I have in the game, go ahead. Give me some constructive criticism. Let me know some better ways to do some of this. As always, likes are appreciated, and subscriptions doubly so. I look forward to seeing you next time. This is Darkeizer, signing off.